gentlemen, you are looking live at another episode of the Young Guns. As I have with me are Will, ND, Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports, Austin Williams, and yours truly. Tonight, we go over some college football. Some staff changes in the making, amongst other things. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing good.
Doing really good.
Excited to talk some football with the boys.
Oh, yeah. It's never too early here at the Young Guns to talk about some college football.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. That's Bama hiring Kevin Steele. What's the reaction to that?
Well, I mean, I know that Kevin Steele has obviously been on Nick Saban's staff before. So, I mean, the familiarity's there. But, I mean, I know a lot of people are kind of mixed. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see on both of these hires. I know we're going to get to the other one soon. But it's just Alabama as a whole, as a program, has had so much turnover with coordinators throughout Nick Saban's, tenure as the coach. And, I mean, eventually it's going to catch up with you. So, I mean, even with all the talent that they have, it's just you feel that all the turnover year in and year out is not really healthy for the program. But, I mean, at least Kevin Steele has familiarity with Nick Saban. He has, been on the staff twice before. So I think that's a positive. Whether he'll do a good job or not, I have no idea. But, I mean, you are going to be working with, some of the best talent in the country. So I think that as long as he doesn't do a poor job, I don't think it's necessarily a bad hire, but it's just going to be interesting to see how, good of a job he's going to be able to do because the standards at Alabama are so high.
Will, what is your take on this hire?
Well, to me, it's a bit underwhelming, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But he does have familiarity with Alabama and was the defensive coordinator in 2007. And was the assistant head coach in 2008 and was the linebackers coach a couple of years with Bama. So it does. I do think he'll probably do a bit better than Pete Golding, but is he going to be as good as Kirby or Jeremy Pruitt? I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah. Right now, I'm not seeing any national titles anytime soon for Alabama. But that's just my opinion on the matter. Austin, what's your take on Alabama making this hire?
Austin might be a little shy right now. Well, I certainly think the linebacker play should be better for Bama because he was a linebackers coach at some point. And I know our good friend of the show, Ty Guy, is excited about the linebacker play and thinks that'll be a strength of the defense.
I know the secondary has been a struggle, especially this past season for Alabama. And you had, elite talent, but they struggled. A lot of pass interference calls. The technique wasn't really there. So that's going to be a big position for Kevin Steele. Can he improve the secondary? To your point, Will, I think the linebacking core will improve for sure based off of his experience, but can he make the whole defense better? Sometimes you can make one position group so good that even if the other ones are weaknesses, you can sometimes still overcome it, but you do have to have your whole defense playing well, specifically if you want to win the whole thing. And that's to Jackson's point, maybe Alabama won't have any national titles anytime soon. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that, they could still win one even now with these two new hires. We're going to have to wait and see. But definitely the standard in college football at this time right now is Georgia. For the last couple of years, they have definitely taken over as the top program. But Alabama, they still have the players. They still have the resources. They still have Nick Saban. But they're just going to have to get the talent that they have to play at a higher level than it has been on both sides of the ball because it has taken a step back the last 2 years. The defense is nowhere where it used to be, the tenacious defense where you couldn't even run on them at all. Like Alabama, you couldn't even run 50 yards. I mean, Leonard Fournette ran for like 17 yards in that one game for LSU. That was the Alabama defense of old. Now they're penetrable. And Alabama's offense was elite for a few seasons, but it's taken a step back. So that's going to be the key for Alabama. And on the Kevin Steele, talk, he's going to have to improve the defense for Alabama if they want to get back to being the top program in college football.
Another thing that Kevin Steele is going to have to improve is the amount of penalties that Alabama's been taking per game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not there like it used to be either. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, the discipline's just not there as it used to be, but does the discipline come back in 2023? That is a wait and see moment right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll definitely find out when they play against Texas on September 9th of 2023 in Tuscaloosa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely limiting the big plays as well. As yeah,
like the Tennessee game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When Tennessee comes to Bryant-Denny, they gotta make it at least a little more harder on them.
True.
Yeah. All right. Well, on the other side, one that hits close to home is Tommy Rees going to Alabama from Notre Dame.
This is an interesting one because, I mean, Tommy Rees is coming from a program that the fan base was not, completely on his side per se. I mean, a lot of Notre Dame fans, will give me, great, hearsay or whatever from the fan base at large, but just reading the general consensus everywhere, a lot of people are not fans of this guy. Tommy Rees, I think, is not a bad coordinator. Looking at his stats, and then you look at the quarterbacks that he did have at Notre Dame. I think that personally, I don't think the talent at quarterback was at the highest for Notre Dame with, Tommy Rees there. I think Ian Book was a solid quarterback. Jack Cohn was solid. Drew Pine, they're not elite. They're good quarterbacks. So the way I'm looking at it with Tommy Rees is it could go one or two ways. You could look at, hey, it's the same thing with Kevin Steele. The talent's going to be there. If you can coach the talent, you're going to have way better talent at the quarterback position than Notre Dame has had the past few seasons. Obviously, I think Notre Dame's going to have better talent this year at the quarterback position, but Tommy Rees isn't there anymore. I think that Tommy Rees could do a good job at Alabama with a better quarterback, better talent overall, and he did prove to be able to run the football with Notre Dame most of his tenure there. And that's something Alabama's been struggling with lately, and a lot of people are pointing out that he could help Alabama get back to being a dominant team on the ground as well as through the air. But the play calling issue, a lot of people don't think he calls plays very well. If the play calling's poor, then he's just going to be Bill O'Brien 2.0. Because a lot of people thought Bill O'Brien wasn't the greatest play caller, and sometimes his play calling wasn't the greatest. But I don't think Bill O'Brien was as awful as some people thought he was. He wasn't great, but he wasn't awful. But Tommy Rees is going to have to do better than Bill O'Brien if he wants to keep the job. And not, get booted out or whatever to go to another program like most coordinators do from Alabama when they don't, perform at the highest level or whatever. They don't usually get fired, as I was pointed out by a comment in on my video that I made, because I mentioned that he will get fired. The way I look at being fired is kind of like Shaka Smart. He got fired from Texas. Even though he didn't get fired, he left to Marquette because he was getting fired. To me, that's getting fired. You're just getting not fired, and it's in a nice way. But for Tommy Rees to not get fired and have a good tenure at Alabama and not get booted out to another program, he's going to have to do better than Bill O'Brien. I think he's capable of it, but he's going to have to do a lot better than he did at Notre Dame, but at least he's going to have more talent than he had at Notre Dame. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, and, I'm just kind of like, anybody's better than Bill O'Brien, but at the same time, on the bright side, at least Alabama didn't make Bill O'Brien their GM. That was just, those are dark ages for the Houston Texans, that's for sure. But Tommy Rees, when I looked over the stats, when he was the quarterbacks coach, 2017, 2019, then becoming the OC at 2020, 2022, they weren't good, but they weren't magnificent, but they weren't bad either. They were just meh. And, because, look, if he was one of the best as a candidate, then he'd have been hired weeks ago. Heck, he'd have been hired day after the national title, so to speak. But he wasn't. And, he was basically more like a fifth option. And I wish him a lot of luck. I really hope I'm wrong. And I hope it's just like my skepticism kind of, getting to me, so to speak. And I really want him to do it, because if he does really awesome at Alabama, that means he'll be a next head coach at a Power 5 school for sure. But for Notre Dame, who are they going to hire to be their OC? Is it going to be Joe Brady? Are they going to try to get him over? Are they going to try to snatch Jason Candle from Toledo, keep him in the Midwest? Who are they going to get? That's the question, everybody's going to have to figure out for Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but what do you think, Will?
Well, Tommy Rees, I know he never had the greatest quarterback situation. Like, Ian Book was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he basically grew Ian Book from a pretty average recruit into an NFL draft pick, which was impressive. But it was never great. And part of that was on him because of recruiting, but also, like, there are rumors out there that Brian Kelly made Tommy Rees only go after guys he knew he could get, just because BK was so scared that he was going to be left with no good quarterback to get. But also, like, some of the games were good. Some of the games were great, like North Carolina and South Carolina were both great game plans. And some of them left me wanting to jump off a bridge, such as Stanford, for example. So, like, it was good Tommy, bad Tommy. I do kind of feel like I have a personal connection to him because he was the first quarterback that I've ever seen to beat USC. He led them on a game-winning drive to win the game, and that was great. But then 2011 turnover Tommy happened, and he was a big part of Notre Dame losing games. And then in that offseason, he got drunk at a party, was trying to run away from the cops, got suspended for the first game of the season. But then, of course, he
ran like he stole something.
Then the first game after the suspension, he came in at the end and led the team to a game-winning field goal drive, and then led the team to a touchdown drive against Michigan to win that game 13-6. So I don't know. I have a lot of feelings towards Tommy Rees, but overall, I do want him to beat Brian Kelly and LSU next season. So hopefully
Will, you may get your wish because it's in Tuscaloosa, and you know how Bama can be in revenge games. So
yeah,
you might get your little Christmas wish there, good buddy.
I hope so, buddy. I hope so.
I know.
It'll be interesting, though.
What I think is interesting about what Jackson pointed out, you said that, how it took a while for, Alabama to make a hire, and then they finally, settled on Tommy Rees. So obviously he wasn't the first option. I think it's interesting that Alabama did not get their first, second, or third option for the job, because you would think that they would. So I wonder what, led to the candidates that were before Tommy Rees to not work out. Was it just because Nick Saban, just didn't, they didn't meet, a philosophy level or whatever, or scheme, or just whatever it was? Because, I mean, they interviewed the Washington offensive coordinator, who, obviously led, with Penix and passing yards per game this past year. They did not hire him. He's staying at Washington. So it's interesting how all that, happened. And as Edward pointed out, they wanted the Washington OC, but he turned him down. It's just interesting how all that came to be, that their first, second, third, fourth, however many options that were before Tommy Rees did not work out, because you would think that they would have been able to just say, hey, you're our number one option, here's such and such amount of money. We agree on the scheme. We agree here. Everything's going to work out. Boom, they hire him. But because it is interesting because usually Alabama never has a hire this late like they have these past 2 ones. So it's going to be interesting to see, if Tommy Rees works out. I hope he does work out, at Alabama. I hope he has a lot of success. But I do think it's interesting that they were not able to land their first few options.
Yeah. It's very concerning that, Bama couldn't even get the Washington OC, but, it's just like, got some questions for 2023, but I wish nothing but awesomeness for everybody in 2023 for sure. And, maybe Notre Dame gets Joe Brady. Oh, Edward says now Saban and Still can do AARP commercial together.
Oh, my gosh. Edward with the
thank you for coming on, Edward, and thank you for coming on One Scoop, John.
Yeah, Austin, do you have anything to add about Tommy Rees going to good old Sweet Home Alabama? Or you not ready to talk?
Tide roll.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think we're ready to move on to the next topic then.
Yes, we are.
Notre Dame legend Tim Brown goes after Tommy Rees. This was interesting. Now, Tim is known in his career was known as more of a quiet player, but he went off on the Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
This is how he started off. This is a great day for Irish football and maybe even a better day for Tommy Rees. I've been around a lot of offenses, but the Irish offense last year, with maybe the exception of the Carolina game, was extremely predictable. Seeing the offense struggle told me at least 2 things. Tommy was very dependent on Brian Kelly, and more important, he didn't have the ability to dissect the defense. What I saw was what I call hero ball. You have Michael Mayer, who is better than the person covering, and you throw them a ball a zillion times, make him the hero. If that doesn't work, you lose.
Yeah.
I was at a couple of games where it took everything in me not to go knock on the booth window and say, give me the call sheet. I truly wish him well. He's going to need it. Let's go Irish. And then Tommy's teammate, Mike Golick Jr. said, sad to see him go, but so excited about the opportunity he has at Bama. Always going to root for Tommy no matter whoever plays his Bills.
Oh,
and
man.
then someone responded to Tim, are you ready for Mike Golick Jr. to make maybe a snarky comment to him? And then he said, tell Mike Jr. when he had these on the shelf, I will listen. And then he showed his Heisman Trophy and his Pro Football Hall of Fame bust to him. So what do you think of Notre Dame legend touchdown Timmy Brown going off on Tommy Rees? Do you think it's just showing how frustrated he is that Notre Dame isn't back where it was with Lou Holtz? Or
I think he really is, but the fact that he was these are his quotes on Twitter. Quote, at Notre Dame football, this is a great day for Irish football and maybe even a better day for Tommy Rees. I've been around a lot of offenses, but the Irish offense last year, with maybe the exception of the North Carolina game, was extremely predictable. Seeing the offense struggle told me at least 2 things. Tommy was very dependent on Kelly, and more important, he didn't have the ability to dissect the defense. What we saw is what I call hero ball. You have a player / Mayor who is better than the person covering, and you throw him the ball a zillion times, make him the hero. If that doesn't work, you lose. I was at a couple games where it took everything in me not to go knock on the booth window and say, give me the call sheet, LOL. Oh, I truly wish him well. He's going to need it. Let's go Irish. Oh.
So what do you think, Jeffrey? What do you think of the last Notre Dame Heisman Trophy winner and also a Pro Football Hall of Famer just going off on his frustrations? Do you think it's a bad look for the program? Good luck? Or
Well, I mean, I don't really think it's going to matter for the look of the program what one guy, says, even if it's someone as important as Tim Brown. I mean, he has a right to, say what he wants. I mean, I don't necessarily think, that, again, Tommy Rees should be getting all the blame. I mean, you got to look at this season. You had a first-year head coach in Marcus Freeman. First year. So it's really tough in most situations, to have instant success with a first-year head coach outside of a few rare exceptions. It just does not happen. Number two, as you pointed out when you talked about Tommy Rees, yet again, the quarterback situation was not ideal, especially this year. Tyler Buckner was supposed to be the guy. He got hurt. Can't do anything about that. Drew Pine, if he was an elite quarterback, would have stayed at Notre Dame. He transferred to Arizona State because he knew he had no chance to start. Sam Hartman's coming in. Tyler Buckner was going to be the starter anyway, this season if Sam Hartman didn't transfer to Notre Dame. So, I mean, I don't think Tommy Rees should be blamed as hard as he was for, the struggles. I mean, yes, I do agree. Like I did say earlier, I do think the play calling wasn't always the best. I did say that. But sometimes your play calling is dictated by what you have on the offensive side of the ball. If you have better talent or you have more weapons, sometimes you're able to have more success than what you're able to do, or sometimes you're able to call more plays, open up the playbook more than what you are able to do if you don't have the ideal, offensive players out on the field. And obviously Notre Dame did not, especially the quarterback position. It was not ideal for Tommy Rees. And Tim Brown saying what he said. I mean, again, he has a right to his opinion. He loves Notre Dame football. There's nothing wrong with being upset that your program that you love and hold a lot of, great thoughts for, and you want them to succeed, to be, quote unquote down. I mean, I know we're talking football, but I mean, how many former players have been frustrated with Indiana basketball? That they're not at the level they used to be with Bob Knight. They're like, oh, they need to hire a former, Bob Knight assist, or a player, or, assistant coach or something, to bring back this, or they need to do this, or they need to hire this guy, or give all the money to this person. So every, team, when they're a great program like Notre Dame football or Indiana basketball or any program, when they're not succeeding at the level that they used to, the former players that played during the height of said program will be upset. So I don't think it's shocking he said what he said. I don't think people should be upset at Tim Brown for saying it. Did he go a little too far? Maybe. But again, he has the right to his opinion because he loves Notre Dame football. And yes, I do think Tommy Rees could have done a bit better of a job, but I don't think that Tommy Rees should be getting the amount of flack that he is getting or has gotten so far, even though it is, fair to say whatever you want. In a free country, you can say whatever you want about a person. Sure. But I don't necessarily think it's valid because Tommy Rees did go through a lot. That's why what he does at Alabama is going to be so key for, his future, because a lot of people, this is your chance, Tommy Rees. A lot of people, the ones that are defending you, are saying it's because you didn't have the top talent, especially at the quarterback position at Notre Dame. But if you fail to succeed or have great success at Alabama, then more people are going to say Tommy Rees isn't a great offensive coordinator, and there will be more validity to that point. But to Tim Brown's point again, you just love your team. I completely understand why he's upset. He wants Notre Dame to be better, but I do think there's a lot more problems than just Tommy Rees. They're going to have to recruit at a higher level, and they've been doing that, and they're going to have to, stay healthy and get elite play on both sides of the ball, and maybe Notre Dame can return to where they used to be.
Edward in the chat just said Tim Brown was just speaking the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts. Ty Guy said everyone can be a coordinator until they get the job. Notre Dame had so many injuries on the offensive side of the ball. And Edward also said in chat, got to learn to adapt, though. It's your job to tailor the offense to the QB.
And that's what we love about sports, man. Like, everyone has really different opinions about what's going on. So,
and I'm kind of in the middle. I'm like, to me, I'm in the middle. I'm not necessarily saying Tommy Rees I'm on the good side or the bad side. It's kind of like I'm more wait and see because there's not really, to me, enough evidence either way. I can see both sides.
Yeah.
All right.
It's too bad Notre Dame can't get Garrett Riley, but there is because Clemson snatching them from y'all. But, however, who should the Irish get? Can they make a home run hire?
I
Will,
really hope so.
If you
who
look
do
at
you
Edwards'
think?
comment, he says it's Candle because Brady's staying in the NFL. Plus, he's been bad outside 1 year of success. So, I mean, if you're going off of Edwards' comment, I mean, Jason Candle of Toledo seems to be a buzzing name. You mentioned him to Miami. That's been the big news. So, I mean, maybe that ship has sailed, but he could still go to Notre Dame. You never know. Stuff can turn on a dime. I mean, Joe Brady's the big name. I mean, everybody knows Joe Brady and the success he had at LSU, but for a lot of people, and I agree, it was mostly that 1 year. So is he the best guy for the job? Have no clue. Plus, will he want to leave the NFL? I have no idea. He might want to stay in the NFL no matter what. A lot of people do that, do not have to recruit and do all the things that entails in college. So, I mean, it could be Jason Candle if he doesn't go to Miami, or it could be someone else. It's going to be interesting, though.
What do you think, Jackson?
Oh, go ahead, Austin.
Austin, what's up, buddy?
My bad, buddy.
But yeah, I kind of think Notre Dame should get Warren Regolo from Wake Forest. But at the same time, I'm thinking Sam Hartman didn't go to Notre Dame to have some of the same things at Wake Forest, so that's a no. Joe Brady, that's a good one. Jason Candle, who knows? Maybe that can happen. Maybe that Florida money's worth more. Because I mean, you get an easy shot at dominating the division. You get an easy shot, but let's see. Troy V says Brian Ferentz would be a great hire for the Irish, at least for no.
That is hilarious, Troy. No one hire Brian Ferentz right now. Okay, Brian Ferentz, update your offensive play calling, and then you deserve to be an offensive coordinator. Please, no more first down run, second down run, 3rd and 8, throw the ball. Can't do that.
But yeah, I'm just sitting there thinking it's gonna be blah. But it's who knows? They can get somebody good. That NBC money is very tempting. Austin, what's your take on Notre Dame? Who should they hire to be the new OC?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw one at you, and I know his recent job in the NFL didn't turn out as well. I don't think it was all his fault, but I think he would bring Notre Dame to the 21st century, and that's Mr. Cliff Kingsbury. I think he would bring a. Yeah, I think he'd be a good OC because, especially with the way Notre Dame likes to run offense, maybe he can bring them into more of a passing offense instead of them just being a running team. Now teams have to fear not only the run, but they've also got the pass to worry about. Because most of the time when you play Notre Dame, you stop the run, you beat Notre Dame. Just ask Stanford. Sorry, Will. But
that hurt.
But yeah, I didn't think of that. David Shaw being the OC.
But yeah,
but at the same time, to your point, Austin, Cliff Kingsbury being the OC, let's see if he gets done partying in Thailand first.
I think with Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, it's literally the same thing as Joe Brady. Does he want to leave the NFL? Because if he does, yeah, I think that he would definitely, consider taking the Notre Dame offensive coordinator job because he is a good offensive play caller. I think that he would do a really good job updating the Notre Dame offense. But does he want to leave the NFL? Because if he doesn't, he's not going anywhere in college. And that's the key. A lot of people do whatever it takes to stay in the NFL. They don't want to recruit. They don't want to have to do all the, the ifs, ands, and all the stuff you got to do in college that you don't have to do in the NFL. College is a tough game. There's a lot of stuff you got to do. Rules, regulations. You got to do a lot of stuff. It is hard work. NFL is hard as well, but it's different. A lot of coaches don't want that. So if Cliff Kingsbury wants to return to college, I could see it. And I think it would be a good hire. But if he doesn't, then obviously that's not going to happen. It's going to be interesting.
True. One Scoop John in the chat says, if Bama couldn't get him, I doubt Cliff wants a college OC job.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the stats are on Cliff Kingsbury. So he was a fantastic offensive coordinator, but unfortunately, he was not a good head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that 2012 season, I mean, people can talk about all they want about the magic of Sumlin, but guess who was really behind that? I mean, yeah, everybody's going to say Johnny Manziel, but it was offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury. And that 1 year he was there with Texas A&M. And it led to him coming back home to his alma mater in Lubbock, which unfortunately things didn't work out for him. But he did have this underrated gem of a quarterback who I think he's playing as the starting quarterback in the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he likes Hunt's ketchup a lot. I mean, and he made some of these big plays that we see on the Sports Center. I think he's playing in his third Super Bowl next Sunday.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes. I think what's funny, though, about, you talking about Cliff Kingsbury, not succeeding as a head coach in the NFL, but you got to think about why.
Right.
For one thing, the defense for the Cardinals was awful, right?
Right.
And you look at like Lincoln Riley. What's his problem for as a head coach? At USC and at Oklahoma, what was his problem at both stops? The defense. A lot of offensive-minded coaches put so much into that they don't even look at the other side of the ball. In college, you can have a better chance to win when your defense is bad if you're putting up 60. But in the NFL, you have to defend. I mean, think about all the Super Bowls that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning have won throughout their careers. A lot of them were because the teams they were on, they were awesome. I mean, that's why they're Hall of Famers. They are awesome. But their defenses on those teams, especially with Peyton Manning at the Denver Broncos, that defense was unbelievable. I mean, you're not winning those games like that, those low-scoring games without the defense. So I think the issue per se with, Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach is that he never got the defense to be good at the Cardinals. And obviously there were issues with, Kyler Murray and, everything else. I mean, it wasn't all just the defense. There were some issues on the offense. But I do think that Cliff Kingsbury is a great offensive coordinator. It's just a lot of these offensive-minded, coaches don't make it as head coaches because they don't prioritize the defense. So I think that people, talking bad about Cliff Kingsbury shouldn't, because he's a great offensive coordinator. It's just, again, for Notre Dame, it's whether he wants to go back to college or not.
I'll say this.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be more like a lot of coaches just didn't like coaching under Nick Saban or Bill Belichick? So maybe Kingsbury is looking for a more laid-back head coach and Marcus Freeman. So that's the one reason I would say turning down Alabama for Notre Dame. But we'll see. We'll see who we get. Hopefully, I would take Andy Ludwig from Utah or Joe Moorhead from Akron as well. I think those would both be great hires. So
that'd be pretty cool.
Hopefully we don't hire Josh Gaddis. Hopefully we go for a better hire than that. As
Andy the Dandy
experience, the Josh Gaddis experience as well. So
I mean, the job he's done with Cam Rising is just fantastic. It's just wow. 2 straight conference titles, 2 straight trips to the granddaddy of them all in Pasadena. But unfortunately, they didn't win in Pasadena. But, all the same, 2 straight conference titles in the Pac-12. I mean, if he can do that at Utah, he's going to do great at somewhere like Notre Dame.
All right. So who is going to be the offensive coordinator at the U? We keep hearing Jason Candle, but it might fizzle out. So who do you guys think would be the best fit for Miami? And what kind of offensive coordinator do you think they should get?
Well, I mean, Miami has talent. I mean, that's cliche, is to say, because you think about Miami football. I mean, they every single year, recruiting at least in the top 25 every single year. They're nowhere near where they used to be, but they still have a lot of talent. And right now, the ACC, I mean, is down as a conference as a whole. I mean, some teams are improving though. I mean, you look at Florida State; they're coming back. Clemson's still Clemson. North Carolina's better than they used to be. So if you're Miami, you want to get this right because you got to get better now. If you want to start ascending up the ACC ladder, which should be easy, to at least get back to 9-3, 8-4 at worst as a program, as many great players as you have, I do think that they should be able to be a much better program than they have currently been. So to your point, is Jason Candle the right guy? I think that, he's a great offensive mind. A lot of, people can be great offensive minds. And that's all he's going to have to do down in Miami. He isn't going to have to do defense. He doesn't have to worry about anything else because he's just going to be the offensive coordinator. So I think it would be a great hire. I mean, there's obviously other names out there that you could do, but I just think for Miami, you get a guy like this or anybody else that's just capable of running a modern offense, a offense is tailored, as many people have pointed out in the chat, to the quarterback that you have in Miami. You're going to have to run the offense that is best tailored for him. And if you do that, and if Miami's defense does not give up 45 points to Middle Tennessee State, I think Miami could be a better program. But you're going to have to show up to play, and you can't lose to teams like that. And your offensive coordinator is going to have to do a better job than the offensive coordinators that they've had in the past recently that have not done very well. Because Miami is definitely still a capable program, but man, they have struggled.
Oh yeah. But I tell you what, though, Candle heading over as an OC for Miami, that would be fantastic, man. I mean, he can have some Kareem Hunt type running backs over at Miami. You thought you saw some star running backs over on Maction Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the regular season. Just imagine the star power you'll see at Miami with Jason Candle as OC. Man, that's just going to be wow. I mean, Austin, give us your take on Jason Candle heading over to Miami, possibly.
Yeah, if this is the move, I mean, going from the MAC to the ACC, that's a big jump, obviously. But I think he would do a good job if Miami is the place. I mean, because Miami, they get a lot of 5-star talents. He'll be able to run the offense how he wants it. So if he wants to run the ball more, or if he wants to do 21st style offense, pass and do all these fancy dancies, end rounds, and all that, Miami's the place for it. I think he would be a good hire there, just for the fact based on talent.
I think for Miami to succeed, I feel like a lot of these guys, I feel like they lose the locker room a lot in Coral Gables, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they need a tough coach that's really going to get in there and make them do their hardest every game. Because I think sometimes during the games, especially for Florida State and Middle Tennessee and Duke, I feel like they quit in those games.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Mario Cristobal is starting to build that culture, but I also think it would be important for the offensive and defensive coordinators that they're looking at to really be tough on the players, sort of like Bear Bryant and Nick Saban and Gene Stallings, like those Bama guys, to really get the best out of their players, really push them as hard as they can. And I think strength and conditioning also helps with that as well.
I think the issue is when you're a program like Miami, you've been down for a long time. And sometimes, as a team, it's just you're a player. And obviously Miami is the resources and what it takes to be a great program. They're still getting the players. But it's like a lot of these players, you come into a program and you just expect, we're going to win because we got this team and we're going to win 9-10 games at worst. It's going to be great. We're going to be the team that brings Miami, back to the top of the ACC. Then you drop a game you shouldn't, and it's like, okay, what happened? There's no reason this should have happened. We're supposed to just steamroll these bad teams in the ACC, these non-conference teams, unless you're playing a team like Alabama on a neutral, you're not going to win that game. But other, teams beside that, like Middle Tennessee State, it should be a cakewalk. For most teams it is, but for whatever reason, a team like Miami, it's like, to Troy's point, they've been broken since they lost to the Buckeyes in the Natty. They get a great recruiting class and they underperform. Whether it's been coaches or the type players they're bringing in, to your point, Will, they need to get coaches that are going to be tough, like other programs that win, and the players have to come into a mindset and say, hey, we're going to be the ones that bring Miami back, and not just say it, but actually do it. And they're capable. They're not doing it, though. That's the problem. You can't just come in and say, oh, we're going to win, and that's it. You have to actually fulfill that. You have to actually work hard towards it. And if Jason Candle becomes the offensive coordinator, he's able to do that, or any offensive coordinator, you got to be able to get the players and the whole entire locker room on both sides of the ball to say, hey, we're Miami. We might be down, but we're not out. We need to, take the talent that we have, rise up, be a 9-10 win team again. They don't have to win national titles. That's the other problem. Because like you look at Nebraska, they're another program that's been down for a long time, and they're just as capable. It's not about winning national championships yet. You got to consistently make bowl games, win 8-9 games, and then maybe you can get back in that discussion. But if Miami can't even get to bowl games consistently, you're not going to get back there. So it's just about cleansing the program, working hard to the goal, and getting those players on the right path to actually be able to fulfill what Miami is capable of.
Let's see. One Scoop John was saying Miami and Texas A&M gave bazillions to the players allegedly, yet 5-7 for both. Edward says some sanctions will do that to you. And Edward was also saying, to be honest, Candle could poop the bed because Mario wants to be a run-first offense.
It's very difficult to be a run-first offense right now in 2023 in college football. It's not impossible, to emphasize running the football, but if you just keep running the ball over and over and you don't pass the ball at least 30 times, it's hard because the defensive lines are incredible for a lot of these top programs. They just have, beasts on that side of the ball. It's very difficult to run the football consistently like you could in the 80s and 90s. It's a lot harder than it used to be. So you got to be able to run the ball. You can't abandon it. And if you're a coach that believes in the run, I'm not saying you shouldn't run, but you have to be able to throw the ball. Like you look at Michigan, they had success against Ohio State with the play action pass, throwing the ball over the top. That's how you win today. You can run, but then you have to be able to use that run to be able to throw. You can't just run and win, especially in big games. You're not going to beat Alabama just running the ball 50 times. You're not. It's impossible. You're not going to beat Georgia, especially not going to beat Georgia right now. You can't even run for 50, 100 yards on them. You have to throw, but you have to be able to run. You have to be able to say, hey, we can run the football with the best programs, but we also have to use the run to play action pass and throw the ball down the field, or you're not going to win anything. And in Miami, Tyler Van Dyke, he's capable of doing that. He was hurt some this past year. That did not help Miami. But if he's healthy, he is capable.
Yeah, and a lot of teams they like to do triple options now too. And that's the thing I find funny about it is you can be a run first, but a lot of teams now are doing the triple options or the read options. That way it throws the defense off so they can set up the pass, to your point, Jeffrey. But to the point of the days where you can just say, okay, let me hand it to my 5-star running back, and he's going to do it. Like Derrick Henry, for example. He was one of those rare guys you can just hand it to, and off he goes. Nowadays, you got to do the read options, the triple options to set it up. And I think that's how you get it done now. There's no more of the days of, okay, just let me hand it off and let's see the magic happen. Those days are long gone. And I think I agree with your point, Jeffrey. That's how it's going to be now.
For sure. All right.
Like running the football.
Mm-hmm.
Edward says Miami didn't start using NIL till 2023 recruiting class with John Ruiz, and he was the money behind that. And he publicly said they have not given one player $1 million. Most of the deals were $500,000 though. Oh, Texas and Oklahoma trying to leave the Big 12 early. Will it happen? Honestly, I've been saying this for about half a year and a half, because Do we really think they want to stay until 2025? I don't think so, to be honest. I think they want out of there ASAP, and I think the Big 12 agrees alongside with them. They're just kind of like they're all just kind of sick of each other, and it would be fun to see another Texas BYU matchup. It would be fun to see another BYU Oklahoma matchup, or like another Cincinnati Oklahoma matchup in like 2024, but I just kind of feel like this is going to be the only year where we see them as conference opponents, because Texas and Oklahoma are going to come up with that 8-figure buyout money to get out of the Big 12 ASAP. I mean, they're not getting out right now. At least that's what we're being told at the moment. But I'm thinking they're going to stay right where they're at for now.
Mm.
But we'll know more 6 months from now.
Yeah. I mean, my one question for the group here, real quick, is why would you want to leave early? Because look at what you're dealing with between the two conferences. You've got Georgia, Alabama in the SEC, and those are your two biggest competitions. I wouldn't want to deal with that right about now, because those two teams, they're powerhouses. As you look at the landscape of the Big 12, your biggest competition is Baylor and TCU, and maybe Cincinnati.
Mm.
I mean, that's my question for you guys. Like, is it worth it to go now? I know eventually they're going to have to deal with Georgia and Alabama and all these other teams in the SEC. But would you rather finish out because of the fact that their two biggest threats are just Baylor, TCU, and Cincinnati? I think Texas and Oklahoma can win those games consistently. As Alabama and Georgia, not so much. What do you guys think on that?
The thing
Just
is,
looking at it from
Austin,
that vantage point.
The thing is, Austin, is to Edward's point, it's about the money, Austin. The games don't matter. The games don't matter, because if they did, they wouldn't even be leaving the Big 12. It has absolutely nothing to do with the teams they're playing, because if you're looking at it that way, I completely agree with you. I mean, to me, you should stay in the Big 12, where you should be the best two teams in the conference every year. The fact Texans hasn't been, that's their own fault. They underperform like Miami and other programs. But Oklahoma and Texas should be the two best teams in the Big 12 almost every single year. But they haven't been, in Texas's case, Oklahoma has been at the top basically every year. That's not the reason they're leaving. The reason that they're leaving is money. Money is what matters. You could use the same argument for USC, UCLA. Why leave the Pac-12? Money. You're going to be going to the Big Ten, where you got to play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State every year. It's all about money. Unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say, and for a lot of people, money drives the sport now. It used to not at this high of a level, but it does. Because I wish Texas, Oklahoma would stay in the Big 12. They can continue to dominate the conference. At least Oklahoma mostly has. Texas should and can. But they're leaving and going to the SEC not because of the fact they're, playing those teams. It's about the money they're going to make in the conference. And even though now Oklahoma, Texas, unless they're going to be able to recruit at an insanely high level, get great coaches, and be able to compete with Alabama, Georgia, and the other programs in the SEC, they're probably going to be 8-4 programs for the next, few years until they can get things figured out. Maybe 9-3 at best. But they're not leaving for that reason. They're leaving for money. They don't care about the games. And even if their teams are not playing as well and they're struggling on the field because they're having to play better competition, they don't care as long as both universities are making $50 more million a year.
Yeah. I know a lot of Texas and Oklahoma fans, they also want to see if they're ready yet, if they're ready to face off against the SEC or and how big the gap is between them and the SEC as well. So,
well, the way Oklahoma was this past year, they're not. They're nowhere close. But if Oklahoma's back to where they were, with Lincoln Riley a couple of years ago, plus with an added defense, yes, they are capable. But the way they were this past year, no, they're going to have to definitely improve on the defensive side of the ball, and their offense is going to have to get back to the high level of play that it was a few years ago. Texas, they're just going to have to play consistently. I mean, they're not even doing that in the Big 12. They're going to have to start playing at a higher level all around if they want to, have success at all in the SEC. Because I mean, the way they're playing, the way they've played in the last 10 to 15 years in the Big 12, if they do that in the SEC, they're going to struggle to win 6 games. I mean, that's how bad it's going to be. But I do think both programs are capable, and with them joining the SEC, maybe they'll be able, again, to recruit at an even higher level. Maybe they'll be able to, learn how to compete since you're going to have to be playing these teams week in and week out. Maybe you'll figure them out. Maybe you'll get the right, coaches. Maybe Steve Sarkisian and Brent Venables are both the guys, and then they can just, start winning some games in the SEC. But it's going to be extremely tough. But, I mean, like I said, again, to Austin's point, I really wish they were staying in the Big 12 because I like seeing Oklahoma and Texas being able to have better shot, to be able to win big games, go 11-1 or whatever. It's going to be a lot harder to do that in the SEC, and it stinks they're going in there, to potentially not be as good, but maybe they'll be better for it in the end. But they're definitely leaving for the dollar bill.
Well,
yeah,
I'll say this, though. Texas and Oklahoma have been doing a fantastic job on the recruiting trail. I mean, if you look at the 2023 recruiting class, according to 247sports.com, Texas is 3rd in the recruiting class of 2023, and Oklahoma is 4th in the 2023 recruiting class. I mean, that's pretty big, despite the fact that Oklahoma has had the worst season in whoever knows how long, but still, I mean, Brent Venables, is going to do a pretty good job at Oklahoma, but, Texas and Oklahoma, we'll see how it works out in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Is it their last season, or are they going to stay out through their contract? Are we going to see the bedlam again after 2023? That's the question for the state of Oklahoma.
I mean, I do agree that they should stay, and wait till 2025. I think that's the year. They should stay. They shouldn't leave. I mean, the only reason they would leave, again, my whole monologue to, Austin's point, is that the only way they will leave is because of money. I hope they don't, and they shouldn't, because they need to, really, for the competition on the field, get back to that level. Oklahoma's not ready. Texas isn't ready. They need to get better before then on the field.
Right.
And off the field, I mean, it takes time to transition over. You don't want to just jump the gun and say, hey, we're going to just go ahead and go to the SEC. Get all your stuff in order on and off the field, and then go when the time is allocated. Leaving early could actually make it worse for you.
Yeah.
And I hope they continue to play Oklahoma State, but if the scheduling don't work out, they won't, but I hope they do.
Scheduling can work out in college basketball, but apparently
Yes.
in college football, not so much at the moment.
Hopefully, rivalry week they can still play, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, if Florida State can manage to do it,
Mhm.
Georgia Tech, Clemson, South Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky, then surely we can find a way for Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thomas Hero makes a point.
Sure.
I don't know if the bump in competition really matters with the expanded playoff. Go 9-3 in the SEC or Big Ten, you're likely, and I agree, but you got to go 9-3 for sure. I mean, you got to at least go 9-3. That's hard. But I do agree with that. I mean, it maybe wouldn't be completely guaranteed depending on how the other conferences perform. But yeah, in most years, if you go 9-3, you'd have a really good shot. So I do agree.
Troy V said, I thought I seen they were denied early exit. Might have read it wrong, though. No, you read it right. Hummus Hero said Oklahoma and Texas had top 5 recruiting classes this year, so that will help. Tennessee Balls for Life said, hey, guys, great show tonight. Thank you, Tennessee Balls for Life.
Appreciate the support.
Yeah. And to make a point on that real quick, a lot of this recruiting, transfer, NIL, as it relates to this topic, is Oklahoma and Texas, is Jeffrey's favorite thing to say, is they are a brand. People see the Longhorns and the Sooners, and they're like, oh, we come here, we can win national titles. We can play for New Year's Sixes. We can be in conference titles games. Our draft stock can be looked at more.
Mm-hmm.
As if you go to a smaller school like, say, Kansas, for instance, since we're in the Big 12, You don't get that opportunity as much because Kansas is not well known for their football. They are the basketball school. If you want to be a basketball star, go over there to Kansas with Bill Self. He'll get you there. But in terms of football, Texas and Oklahoma are a brand team, and they have all this lineage and history that people still want to come play for them. The fact that Oklahoma still went 6-6 and they are still in the top 5 in recruiting class shows that they still have the mustard, so to speak, to get people. And a lot of people thought once Lincoln Riley left, it was all over. Oklahoma's going downhill. It's the complete opposite. They will be fine, whether they're in the SEC or the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will be fine. Same with Texas.
I think in the long run, I do agree. I think they will be fine. I do. But I think at the beginning, it's going to be a struggle. I do.
Right.
The transition is going to be hard unless, again, they're getting these top recruiting classes and they're just somehow able to transition over. It's no biggie. Or maybe more of these teams in the SEC will be down. You never know. But it is going to be a tough transition. But in the long run, both these programs are capable of being able to handle the SEC. They're both brands. They both get a lot of talented players. They're capable of it. But it will be interesting to see how they transition for sure.
We have a question from Gixxer Squid. Does the NIL make Oklahoma less attractive in today's new world with the transfer portal and NIL?
Well, I mean, there are other programs that are probably at a more elite level than Oklahoma on this front, but they're obviously doing okay, or they wouldn't have gotten top recruiting classes still. So I don't know. It's kind of that's 50-50. I mean, there are definitely other programs that are better than Oklahoma, but they seem to be doing okay for now.
I mean, to get a guy like Peyton Bowen's a big win for them. Still bitter over that as a Notre Dame fan, but. With that,
I mean, looking at the recruiting classes, under Brent Venables so far, I think, Oklahoma's doing okay. They're doing pretty good. I mean, yeah, they had a rough year in Brent Venables' first year. I mean, they were 8th in the 2022 recruiting class. This year, they were 4th in the recruiting class, and they basically had an average of 6th ranking over the past 2 years. So I think the recruiting's in good hands under Brent Venables. Now, what he does with it in the upcoming season of 2023 and beyond that is the question. Can he be like the Nets Kirby Smart, or is he the Nets Will Muschamp? That's the question you're going to see in the future. Let's see. Edward says Oklahoma is just a portal and using NIL. Let's not act like Oklahoma is a poor state. They got oil money also. Troy V says, I see Oklahoma maybe transitioning quicker. Texas can't do anything in the Big 12. I don't see them having any success in the SEC. Going to be the homecoming team more than likely.
Texas is looking good this year, man. If they are good this year,
that's the key. I mean, like to Troy's point, I basically kind of referenced that earlier as well. So me and him are on the same page talking about these teams. Like Oklahoma, lately they're better than Texas, but both of them seem to be coming around. Oklahoma was down this past year, but they can definitely rise back up. Texas, they have all of the players, they have the coach, they have everything in order. The fan base is still elite. Everything's there for Texas to be great. Like to your point, Will, if they don't win at least 9 or 10 games this year, oh man, something's not right. It's gonna be really hard to do that in the SEC if you can't do it right now because they have everything going for them right now.
Hamas here was talking about Oklahoma got Deshaun McCullough from Indiana too. That's a solid player for their defense.
They got his brother too, right?
They got the whole team. The whole family from the team. Yeah, they got the whole family, the McCullough family from Indiana.
Oh, yeah. Edward is saying in the chat, Arch is fumbling already, and the season didn't even start football yet. Oh, man.
Hey, they're already talking about Peyton Manning's son, who's 11 years old, throwing football in the Pro Bowl, man. It's Manning train, man.
Oh
Can't
man,
stop those Mannings. They're gonna keep throwing footballs, man.
they are the royal family of all of football. That is for sure.
All right. Well, speaking of Will Muschamp, wait, crap, that's the last slide. Okay, so Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge are gonna lead NBC's Big Ten coverage. Do you like these guys, and do you think they'll do a good job for the Big Ten and NBC's night games on it?
I've never
Uh-huh.
actually heard Noah Eagle before, so that's definitely a
He did. I
flaw
heard
in
him
my
the first
analysis
time.
there.
I heard him the first time in Nebraska, Georgia Southern. He did that game.
Oh
good?
man, that was a
Yeah,
big
he's good.
one.
Well, I got definitely more experiences. I'm sure everyone else does with Todd Blackledge. I've heard him for years. I mean, he's really solid. I mean, he's does the little funny skits with the food and everything.
Oh,
which
the
I think is
taste
really
of the
cool.
town. That's so awesome.
I mean, it's kind of sad to see him, off, doing it with Sean McDonough. That's no longer. I mean, I thought that pair was pretty good, but I mean, you got to have a big name, to start your new TV slot. NBC, Saturday Night Football with the Big Ten and everything. You gotta have someone big, and Todd Blackledge at least delivers that. He's a big name that everyone knows. Former Penn State quarterback. He's been a commentator for a long time, so that was a good decision. I mean, whether people because I know, no matter what, like if someone says I like, Bill Walton in college basketball or Gus Johnson there's going to be people that like or don't like all of these individuals. So whether you like Todd Blackledge or not as a commentator, he's a big name. That was a great decision by NBC to bring him over, because that's going to at least give someone, people familiarity with someone as the first time doing, this time slot. No Eagle, again, never actually really listened to him before, but from what you said, he seems good to have. So you're going to have an older guy and a younger guy. I think it's pretty solid.
They look like a dynamic duo. I am looking forward to seeing them call games in 2023. I mean, I especially look forward to seeing the taste of the town on NBC. That's going to be awesome.
Mm.
Taste of the town in East Lansing, Michigan, or State College, Pennsylvania. Ann Arbor,
maybe Bloomington if Indiana's good enough to get a game.
or West Lafayette. Huh?
Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, Madison,
Randall.
Wisconsin. How could I forget Wisconsin? Iowa City, Iowa. Out in Minnesota as well. Lincoln, Nebraska. Oh man. He's going to find a wonderful taste at the town in Champaign, Illinois, man. I'm telling you, he's going to find fantastic places to eat, and he's a fantastic commentator. While his pro football career didn't necessarily work out.
That's why everyone says the Penn State quarterback.
Yeah, but he did win the national title for Penn State in '82, but that was pretty cool. So, it's going to be fun watching Todd Blackledge calling games on NBC. Austin, your take on this?
It's going to be interesting having college football besides Notre Dame on NBC.
Exactly. Like when I heard the news break in summer 2022, I'm kind of like, so you're telling me ESPN doesn't have this whole monopoly over college football? Yay!
Go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, my only thing with this is I haven't heard Noah Eagle much. I haven't heard him much. He looks like his dad, though. And for Todd Blackledge, I've heard him quite a bit, like you have too, Jeffrey. He's really good. And the taste of the town, that's some of the best stuff he does on TV. But I think, we got to give it time. Hopefully this turns out well. And, hopefully whatever game they call, maybe it's Iowa, Indiana, hopefully they can make it entertaining. Or Ohio State, Penn State, whatever game they happen to get. We'll see how they do. It's a new pairing. Hopefully it's something fresh for the college football world. But it's going to be hard to beat Gus Johnson and Joel Clack in the booth. I'm sorry, it's gonna be hard to beat them. Or Kurt Herbst and Chris Fowler. I'm sorry, it's gonna be hard to beat them guys. But let's see where this goes, though. I wish him nothing but the best, though.
Oh, yeah. But I'll tell you what, though. I mean, Noah Eagle called the largest comeback in the history of the NFL the Vikings and the Colts, man. I'm telling you, I am looking forward to what this dynamic duo brings in 2023. It's going to be fantastic. I'll tell you what, though. It's kind of like 2014 where I was just kind of like, I'm not going to like Brent Musburger not being able to call games with Kirk Herbstreit anymore. I mean, it's going to take a while for me to get used to Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit. Guess what? It did. We're going to see the same thing with Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge. I'm telling you right now, this is a dynamic duo that people are going to love in many, many, many years to come.
Yeah.
Edwards
Should be
sick.
good.
It'd be Greg Olson calling all the games, period.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for these guys, man. I mean, they're pretty contrasting. One's young, one's old. Should be fun.
Yep. It's going to be fantastic.
So this is big news for South Carolina. They really won the last signing day because they got the biggest guy available, the number one tight end, Nicholas Harbor, out of Archbishop Carroll in DC. That school has a ton of history to it, so it's fun to see more. And do you think that with this recruiting, can Shane Beamer close the gap between him and the rest of the SEC and be able to compete with Georgia every year? Or do you think it's still too much of a gap and they'll stay a second to third tier SEC team?
Well, I mean, the issue is if you look at this, I mean, number one, I mean, you look at the teams at the top of the SEC, they're getting multiple 5-stars per class. This is one guy. And if you also look at what did South Carolina lose in the transfer portal, they lost their best tight ends in the transfer portal to other programs. So there's a wide open spot. He's going to immediately probably play. If he lives up to his 5-star potential, he'll immediately slide into the starting role. And no questions asked. So, I mean, I think that's a big reason why they were able to land him, because they were like, well, we don't have a tight end right now. So you can just slide right on in and start. So that's one thing. I think this is optically awesome for South Carolina to say, hey, we got a 5-star recruit. So I think that could potentially help them in the future to be able to land more, especially if they keep having success. But the issue with the transfer portal era is that it's not just important to land these guys, is if you can keep them. So if, Nicole Harbor, he's at South Carolina for a year or two and then enters the transfer portal, that doesn't help South Carolina. So, I mean, because he's only there for a year, or maybe two. And then he leaves and goes to a bigger program, has even more of an impact, and then he goes to the draft. And then obviously you don't get the credit for it as a player because he's the tight end from Georgia, because he transferred to Georgia, hypothetically away from South Carolina. So I think it's a really big get for South Carolina optically for the program. I think it could potentially help Shane Beamer recruit more elite players like this. But I think given the circumstances, South Carolina had an open position. And they were, they were able to land Harbor. And I also think that potentially them being able to keep him, for his whole career in college versus him transferring out is key as well. But no, South Carolina's nowhere near the level of Georgia, Alabama at this time. They're going to have to get a lot more players like this if they're going to get there. But this is a sign in the right direction. I think Shane Beamer's doing a great job. And you have to get the first one to be able to get more. So maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Do you think they can continue this momentum into future cycles? Then?
Possibly. You got to keep having success. And if you're able to keep Harbor and he does really well at South Carolina, and South Carolina's winning 8-9 games and they can keep building success and have great seasons after great seasons, then yes, I do. But it's going to be extremely tough, but it is possible.
Well, I'm not saying that South Carolina won't get 9 wins or 10-win seasons, but let's not count all the chickens before they're hatched on this one. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, you get one big 5-star. That doesn't automatically mean
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna win it all, or you're gonna get 5 straight conference. No, that's counting our chickens for their hatch. And 2023, we're gonna find out and see if they can be the second best team in the SEC East. It's pretty much anybody really. It could be Kentucky, Tennessee, or South Carolina, but we're gonna find out with Shane Beamer, and he's been doing such a fantastic job at SC. But one 5-star does not automatically mean SEC title, and that doesn't automatically mean second straight win over Clemson either. What you got to do is see if you can win, if you can pull off more big upsets. Not just pull off big upsets, but consistently win big games.
No slip ups, no losing to Vandy or any of those teams.
No, and no losing to Missouri either. And, let's see. Edward says their OC was one of the worst NFL OCs, Bilbo Baggins. Ha 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 ha.
Odell Haggins, right? That's
Yeah.
who you're talking about.
I think so. But, anything can happen in 2023 and beyond. So we're kind of at like a we'll see moment. So, Austin, give us your take on SC and the SEC. SEC.
Well, as this is a big gift for South Carolina because it provides hope for all other teams. Because normally when you think of the SEC, Alabama, Georgia, they get all LSU sometimes get all the 5-star recruits and everyone's left out to dry. I know this is only one, but this is a big one, especially if, say, he had an offer from Alabama or Georgia and he chose South Carolina. That's a big statement because most of the time you would pick one of those two over South Carolina. So he must see something in this to say, okay, South Carolina is where I want to be. I believe I can win with this team. Whatever the definition of winning is in his book. If that means winning 10 games and making a New Year's 6 and maybe winning the SEC a year or two, who knows? But it also goes to your point up top, though, Jeffrey, that you got to keep him happy because what if he says, you know what, this ain't working out? We're supposed to – I thought Carolina was going to be in the SEC title game every year. And that's one of the things that's very, very wrong about the sport is you got to have patience. It takes time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But, some people don't have that patience. They're like, you know what? I'm going to go over here to Alabama where I should have gone to begin with. They'll get me a natty in a hurry. But I think overall this is a big get for South Carolina. I hope he's happy and he plays to his potential well. And hopefully we'll see what happens in the future for South Carolina if they keep this thing rolling. Shane Beamer, if he can keep this thing rolling, who knows? South Carolina might be a 9-10 win team consistently if they can get more of these coming down the way. Who knows?
Wow.
And hopefully for you, Austin, they can be Kentucky.
Yeah, there we go.
They beat Kentucky this year, which was the joy of the year.
I think that was when Vandy beat him, though, right?
But yeah, all you gotta do is beat Tennessee, Kentucky, and Florida consistently, and every now and again, upset a Georgia, upset a Bama, upset an LSU, and keep winning at Texas A&M. That's gonna help you, my friend. I'm telling you, SC. Keep beating those teams, and that'd be pretty cool if you can go to New Year's Six bowls for 3 straight years. I mean, maybe even better than that 2011, 2013 stretch with the old ball coach Steve Spurrier.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Edward said he had only had like 32 Okay. Well, he's playing in the Washington Catholic Athletic Conference with Archbishop Carroll, and they just aren't at the same level as the other teams in the conference, especially DeMatha, St. John's,
Mhm.
Our Lady of Good Counsel, and Gonzaga. So they're usually a bottom dweller.
True.
So just a little extra.
Well, they're
info.
not like a bottom. Like South Carolina's not exactly a bottom dweller, but they're not a top. They're not bottom tier, but they're not top tier. They're usually kind of middle tier, so to speak.
Yeah, he was talking about the high school team that he played for.
Oh.
That's what he was talking about. Yeah, I agree with you on South Carolina though.
So
Mhm.
I have a quick question for the group here. I know it's a little early to predict, but I still want to ask you, what kind of impact do you think this is going to have for South Carolina in terms of their offense? Do you think that this takes the offense to another level now than from what they were in 2022? Do you think he has a Travis Kelce effect, so to speak, that maybe people will come double him more and that'll free up some more receivers for the Gamecocks? How are we feeling about that? Just get an early feel for it.
Well, I think it definitely helps them stop the bleeding from the guys that they're lost. So I definitely think it helps at least keep what was good going for South Carolina in terms of offense.
Sure.
But maybe it can take another step. We'll see.
Yeah, obviously getting a player, of this caliber is going to help, whether it's on offense or defense. I think that it will help the offense out. It's just the key is going to be how much does it, better the players around him. Like if he is, getting more attention out there because he's dominating, maybe it will free up some other players on offense and their offense can just roll. But again, it is really tough for one guy to completely change your whole entire, one side of the ball. There's 11 guys out there. You got to have your offensive line be performing at a high level against the top SEC defensive lines. You got to have your quarterback not throwing picks. You got to have your quarterback have time to throw. You've got to have your other receivers be competent and catch the football and get open. You've got to have your running game playing well. So he's going to help, but your whole entire offense has to play better to, succeed. I do think that this is a big get for the optics of the program and to potentially be able to land more players. And I think that they will be a better team this year with Nicole Harbor than if they didn't have him. But the key is how the whole entire offense steps up and how they utilize them and all that meshes together. And maybe they can, reach another gear that they haven't had, since the Steve Spurrier era.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey, Troy V made the exact same point you did in the comments section. He pointed out to say that it is a nice pickup, but it's a tight end. That's nice and all, but how is their running game? And do they have a good O-line or wide receivers? Ain't winning anything if you're lacking in those positions.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
Troy agreed on like 3 things tonight. It's awesome.
Oh, there we go. Hey, everyone in the chat, if you would like to call in, here on this show, here's the link down below on the comments.
That's interesting. Edwards said he will be a boundary wide receiver. Ooh, that's interesting because he looks like a big fella. I don't know how agile he is for that. Because those guys
if he's
are
gonna be a
normally
receiver, it's gonna be like DK Metcalf. If he's gonna be a receiver, something like that. A big guy can just take the top off the defense and run 80 yards. But I don't know, like you said, Austin, how his agility is. His speed. I have no idea. So it's definitely too early for me to say.
By the way, someone wanted, I don't know if they were trolling, but someone wanted us to give a betting advice for Bethune-Cookman, Texas Southern. I'm saying take Texas Southern.
I don't know about plus 8.5.
Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't know plus 8.5. If he's wanting to cover the spread, I don't know whether to do that, but I do think Texas Southern will win.
Yeah, well, Bethune-Cookman's been hot, so I'm saying take the points, but don't bet them outright.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hummus Hero points out since he has world class speed. That does make difference in the world today of college football. So
What's up, Edward? How are you, my good man?
I'm chill.
You chill. What's on your mind tonight, man?
No, but my statement, Will, on that one thing was for 4 years he had 32 catches for 1,100 yards and I think 8 touchdowns. With all that world-class speed, he couldn't even dominate at that lower level of competition. And on the defensive side, he only had 30 tackles for like 5.5 sacks and like 8 tackles for loss.
So what
So
you're
he
saying is he's not as good as his, his
Exactly.
5-star.
He's a 5-star because of his track skills.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who's broke this kid down has said you got to teach him how to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you watch him on tape, he doesn't look like a fluid football player. He looks like a track kid playing football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's strong and he's fast, but he doesn't know how to do that on the football field. And then 2, they have him coming in playing wide receiver. They've already stated it left and right. He will not be a tight end. He will be a boundary receiver. So he'll be playing the X or the Y position. It'll be brand new to him because he played tight end and defensive end in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that kid will be coming into the SEC learning how to play a position.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, if you listen to his interviews, I mean, he's the new king of the SEC, so he put a nice big target on his back. He literally said, I'm coming in. We're going to win championships here. We're going to win national championships here. We're going to own the SEC. I'm your new king. So it's not like that kid helped himself out any.
Well, I mean, obviously, I had no idea about what he has said or what he looks like on the field. I haven't seen him, so like you would know more than me. But I mean, like I said earlier, it's really tough for one guy to completely change a team anyway. No matter who the person is. It could be a quarterback, but if your offensive line's bad, that's not going to help. It could be one of the best offensive line recruits ever, but if the other 4 offensive linemen are not great, then it doesn't matter. That's why you have to have a team of players.
Mhm.
That's why Georgia and Alabama have been dominant in the SEC because their whole entire team, most of the positions are great almost every year, most. And one player is not going to just fix everything for South Carolina, for sure.
No, it definitely won't because they couldn't run the ball last year.
Mm-hmm.
And all their running backs left. They couldn't pass block. And, I mean, that's not going to get any better over a matter of a year. They're one of the worst pass blocking teams in the SEC. And they couldn't really do anything except throw the ball to Juju and just hope and pray he can make everyone miss in space, which he did a damn good job of. So
Thomas Hero says, haha, Edward doesn't like him because he's added to Clemson's rival. That's funny.
I haven't liked the kid, period, because he's been ranked top 10 in the country when his tape doesn't look like it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I'm not a fan of Mateo Uyunglele when you watch his tape either. The kid has 6 sacks and 16 tackles for loss, but somehow is a 5-star player.
Do you think if he wasn't DJ's brother, he would be a 3-star?
Dude, I don't get it. I think it's his size. I think it's because he's like 6'6", 6'5", 280 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
You can turn on multiple defensive linemen outside of him and find better products. You can also find better products on the field outside of that guy, like Brandon Ennis in Florida. That kid's probably one of the best wide receivers. Cardinal Tate from IMG. I mean, there's a ton of them. Noah Rogers. I mean, there's so many more talented players than some of these kids. That's why I've said rankings don't really matter. Because when you look at a kid like Peter Woods, and I'll say, turn on his tape, anyone, turn on his tape, and tell me he's the 72nd best player in the nation. Or the other one has him 56. ESPN had him ranked 4th in the nation. And Rivals had him ranked 19th, but On One had him 56, and 247 had him ranked 72. That's a huge discrepancy when you look at stuff. And to me, I've always said, just turn on the tape. Watch the kid's tape.
I mean, Drake Bowen was named like the best defensive player in the nation in high school. I mean, look at the guy's tape. He's not the 105th best player in the country. He definitely should be ranked
And
at least a 5-star.
And to that dude's point, I wanted Juice Wells out of James Madison University when he transferred to South Carolina. So I could care less if you go there. If you're a great player, I'm going to give you your props. If you're a player that's overranked, I'm also going to call that out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how it is. I even told you, Will, I think Jackson Arnold's the number 1 quarterback in the nation. I don't care what anybody says. That kid is probably the number 1 quarterback in the nation. You just watch him play. The kid is different. He also won National Player of the Year. I mean, he won it over Arch Manning. Why is that? Because he's a better player. Oh, okay. Plays in a tougher division, and he balled out.
All right.
Jackson Earls, huh?
Jackson Arnold, the Oklahoma quarterback.
Jackson Arnold. Okay. I just want to make sure I got the name correct. Well, I'll definitely keep an eye on him, and we at the Young Guns will definitely keep an eye on him for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, everyone, thanks for coming in to watch our show tonight. We had a lot of fun talking college football, and be sure to join us next show.
Any
on
final
Tuesday.
thoughts before we leave, gentlemen?
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts? Austin,
I
you
mean,
got
I
anything?
think that there's a lot of interesting news in college football right now. Obviously the recruiting's basically done. Transfer portal, you never know. There could be some late transfers, but I mean, we're getting, further and further into the off season. Instead of, new additions being added and stuff, you're going to start seeing these teams being assembled, and then spring ball, and then we're going to be getting closer and closer to the season. And all these coaching hires, especially with Alabama, is going to be really interesting to see how they work out. It's going to be interesting to see what Miami does with their offensive coordinator position. There's been a lot of interesting moves in the offseason with coaches and players, and it's just leading up to what looks to be a fantastic 2023 season. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also say this. I hope Notre Dame can work out something with Jason Candle so it can restore the convict versus Catholics.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Well, I just hope whoever gets a job does a better job than TR, and that our offense can be I'm saying top 15. I think Notre Dame should have a top 15 offense in the country going into this next season. So hopefully the defense gets shored up too, as I'm kind of a little more worried about the defense this year. So hopefully that gets sorted out too.
How does this impact Sam Hartman?
I think Sam's staying, man. I mean, as soon as that got announced, he was shown lifting in the Goog, which is Notre Dame's facilities, so big football facilities building. So I think he's staying for sure.
I mean, if y'all make the wrong hire, that's what I'm saying. He knew what he was coming into. Now it's because let's be honest, Wake Forest was done with him. He announced before the season was over he wasn't staying again. I don't know why everyone was so surprised that he was entering the transfer portal. He said it multiple times. He went on ACC PM and said, "Yeah, this is my last time here at Notre Dame. I will be playing another year, or not at Notre Dame, at Wake Forest, but it won't be here." He did it multiple times. But I'm just wondering if he came for Tommy Rees, or will that affect him if y'all hire, I don't know, Joe Brady, and he finds out that he hates Joe Brady,
Yeah. For sure.
Austin, what do you think? What's your final words?
It's gonna be an interesting season. There's a lot of offensive coordinator positions that are still open. Who takes the Notre Dame job? Is Cliff Kingsbury, is the name being thrown out there for a lot of them? Jason Candle, Joe Brady. We'll see where all these guys go. Who knows? And hopefully, a lot of players have decided where they're going. Schedules are starting to come out again, which we will be doing previews on those down the road. So stay tuned for that, guys and gals. For our lady audience out there, I want to thank y'all for being here, and make sure to like and subscribe, and come back Tuesday night for some more great.
for some great content. Absolutely. And Don Player was asking, did y'all talk about my college basketball game yet? Yes, we did. Yes, we
We
did.
said take Texas Southern outright, but take Bethune-Cookman to cover the points.
Mhm.
Exactly. And my final thoughts is Alabama more like the 2020 Alabama, or is it more like the Alabama football of the last 2 years? That's my final thought on tonight's show. But, thank you for coming on the show, everyone.
All right. Thanks so much,
Great,
guys.
everybody.
See you on Tuesday.